Ukrainian forces have recaptured village of Kotline near embattled fortress city of Pokrovsk in eastern Donetsk region, inflicting heavy losses on Russian troops. A video published by Ukraine's Airborne Forces Command credited the 25th Separate Airborne Brigade for carrying out the offensive. The brigade has played a key role in Ukraine's defenses in Pokrovsk sector of the front since February 2022 when Russia launched its full-fledged invasion of Ukraine. The brigade's statement claimed 2 companies of Russian soldiers, some 150 to 250 men, were destroyed running that gauntlet. In a video published on Wednesday, unit spokesman Serhiy Okashev said Kotline was recaptured in a combined operation backed by 3 other formations, 15th, 115th and 1st Slav Brigade. The video also showed 3 men saying they were Russian soldiers taken prisoner by 25th Airborne paratroopers. One man said he and his fellow soldiers had been taken prisoner during the brigade's assault, adding that they received good treatment from the Ukrainians. It should be noted that the village of Kotline was invaded by Russian troops in January and was the main supply road to Pokrovsk. The operation to recapture the village comes after a month of planning, intelligence collection, preparatory training, and first-person view FPV drone attacks against Russian troops in the village, Battalion Commander Serhiy Hera said. Other images shared by the group showed retreating Russian soldiers being shelled from anti-personnel grenades dropped by bomber drones, coming under kamikaze attacks by FPV drones, and shell and mortar strikes. The village was captured on Tuesday, according to AFP. US-based Institute for the Study of War, ISW, was among those confirming Ukraine's success in Pokrovsk. Some information forces also reported that Ukrainian troops had advances in the industrial Donbas region's Toretsk and Chasiv Yar towns to the northeast of Pokrovsk. However, there has been no definite confirmation of these reports. Russian troops were able to eject Ukrainian forces from central Toretsk in early February after a month of fighting. Chasiv Yar was key for barring Russian advances in eastern sector of the front for a year now. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday hailed the start of a renewed dialogue with the U.S., saying that the administration of President Donald Trump showed a pragmatism, a realistic view, and noting that it had abandoned the stereotypes and messianic ideological cliches of its predecessors. The first contacts with the new U.S. administration encouraged certain hopes, Putin said at a meeting with top officials of the Federal Security Service, Russia's top domestic security agency. There is a mutual readiness to work to restore relations and gradually solve a colossal amount of systemic strategic problems in the global architecture, he said. According to Associated Press, he hailed the Russian troops fighting in Ukraine, saying that their courage and resilience had created the conditions for the beginning of talks on a peaceful settlement. He added that the resumption of US-Russian contacts vexed many in Europe and emphasized that Russian diplomats and security agencies should focus their efforts on resisting attempts to derail US-Russian talks.
Первые контакты с новой американской администрацией вселяют определенные надежды. Есть встречный настрой работать на восстановление межгосударственных отношений. Но постепенное решение колоссального объема накопившихся системных стратегических проблем в мировой архитектуре. А именно эти проблемы в свое время спровоцировали и украинские, и другие региональные кризисы. Важно, что наши сегодняшние партнеры демонстрируют прагматизм, реальный взгляд на вещи. Отказываются от многих стереотипов, так называемых правил и мессианских идеологических клише своих предшественников, которые, собственно, и привели к кризису всей системы международных отношений. Сегодняшние динамичные изменения в международном ландшафте – это в огромной степени результат мужества и стойкости наших вооруженных сил, наших героев. Именно они своей доблестью, своими ежедневными победами, создали условия для начала серьезного диалога. Понимаем, что не всех устраивает возобновление российско-американских контактов. Часть западных элит по-прежнему настроена на сохранение нестабильности в мире. И эти силы будут пытаться сорвать или скомпрометировать начавшийся диалог. Мы это с вами видим. Нам нужно это учитывать и использовать все возможности дипломатии и специальных служб для срыва подобных попыток.
Putin again distinguished himself with another comical statement. Speaking in the Kremlin and drinking champagne with Russian occupiers, he declared that the war with Ukraine was an honorable mission, supposedly pleasing to the Lord. This statement became a new explanation of the war after the previous versions about NATO, Nazis, and historical lands had become rather worn out and only caused new ridicule of the elderly Russian dictator. Others say that Putin's mental health problems have led to him developing a persistent delusion of grandeur as he ages. It was fate, it was God's will that such a difficult but honorable mission should fall on our shoulders to defend Russia, Putin said, addressing the military, which included an officer accused by Ukraine of shooting civilians. Social media users and international analysts did not hold back their sarcasm. First there was a special operation, then protection from NATO, then the return of Peter I's lands, now God is to blame. Putin, make up your mind. Commentators write. 5 justifications of Putin in 3 years of war. February 2022, a decision was made to conduct a special military operation, a formal explanation that quickly lost its credibility. June 2022, how Peter I returned the lands. October 2022, NATO has crawled to the borders. October 2023, coup d'état and conspiracy of the West. February 2025, so it was willed by the Lord. Each new explanation seems more absurd than the previous one. And if at the beginning of the war the Kremlin tried to appeal to the threat to NATO and defense of Donbass, now there are no arguments left except references to higher powers. Putin looks like a schoolboy who forgot his homework and makes up excuses on the fly. Either the neighbors disturbed him, or the dog ate his notebook, and now it's God's fault, commentators write. It is noteworthy that Putin has already contradicted himself in his speeches. If in 2022 he said that he made the decision to invade personally, now he claims that it was the will of God. Such inconsistency only underscores the Kremlin's confusion amid the protracted conflict and growing losses, which, according to Western estimates, already exceed 800,000 people. If this is an honorable mission, then why have even Russia's allies begun to distance themselves? And what will be the next explanation? Alien intervention. Joke on social networks. As Putin searches for new reasons to justify the war, discontent and fatigue are growing in Russia.
Неизвестных солдат было, даже не знает никто. Благодаря их усилиям, их мужеству, их